But really, the things that I really wanted to focus on are around the importance that we attach at the embassy or in Her Majesty's government, frankly, to the small and medium business sector in the UK, which is a really significant part of our economy. It employs 16 million people, just over, and numerically accounts for 99% of businesses. There's 6 million of them. So, for those of you Israelis listening for this event, it is a really significant part and sector on our economy. But it is also one that has been really hardly hit by the COVID crisis. And therefore, the business department and its new Secretary of State, the new Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, have set out a series of support and measures that the government are going to make in order to keep that sector alive and put it in the best position to take advantage of the COVID recovery. And events and programs like this one are very much part of it. The Israeli side of this is that, of course, there are over 100 technology companies addressing SME challenges in Israel. They can be a really key part of the competitivity and productivity offering that the UK's SME sector can benefit from. And so this whole program is designed to bring these two sides together and to support British businesses by offering them and introducing them to, and matching them, as the name of the program suggests, to that capability that exists in Israel. In Israel, it's a startup nation. They're almost always started up quite recently as small businesses themselves. So I think there's going to be a really element where both sides can really understand each other in this. And hopefully throughout the day or the afternoon, or morning if you're in the UK, as some of the breakout sessions and the main panels emphasize and bring together groups and areas of interest, we really wanted to focus on the ability to provide assets, advice, and services to enable small and medium-sized businesses to grow their resilience, build their businesses, and advance in their digital journey in the best way possible. So this is all about competitivity. It's all about innovation and being at the cutting edge. And really our role at the embassy is, as in all things, not just related to the tech sector or everything else, about bringing the two sides of Israel and UK partnership together. It's in a really strong place at the moment. So I'm really delighted that this is yet another example of areas where we're really bringing across business, science, and industrial, as well as our more sort of traditional political and defense related relationships together. I really spend a huge amount of my time on this sort of thing, and it's really going well. So we're delighted to bring these things together. Anything that we can do, and the team, Eleanor and Otni and others can do to help in any of those endeavors, we're really happy to do so. And please do keep in touch with us. And thank you everyone for joining. And I hope the program is interesting and useful for you.
Thank you very much, Mark. I would now like to invite Otni Oron, the Digital Economy Sector Manager at the Hub, who's also leading on this program. Otni?
Hi, everyone. Philip Petit, the famous tightrope walker, was once asked what it's like to cross a high wire. His answer, a sequence of balancing and adjusting on one foot, on the other foot, again and again. You must not fall. When you lose your balance, resist. This last year was tough for business, any business. There's no way around it. But from engaging with small businesses this past year, I got the impression that this tightrope walker-like feeling is all too familiar to many. One additional thing was made clear, though, during the pandemic, and that is technology plays a huge part in solving many of COVID business-related challenges. And digitally advanced organizations simply fared better. This trend isn't going to change. Going digital is now the official pandemic certified must-have. Still easier said than done, especially while gazing at the digital horizon, There's the immediate pressing fire to put off, this customer, this bill, this presentation to prepare, product to ship, manufacturer process failing, fill in the blank. And this is exactly why we've created the Matchery program. That is to solve real problems, here and now challenges, but doing so by utilizing practical, proven digital solutions. And so advancing towards this digital horizon, one challenge at a time. To quote Philip again, on one foot, on the other foot. But now using the Matchery resources as a balancing pole. The Matchery is a simple program and is based on focus events, advisory, and online content. We're publishing today the first draft of our online solution portfolio with 30 tech companies with innovative and proven digital solutions, addressing the challenges of small, medium businesses in the UK. This catalog is a great way to get acquainted with what technology has to offer. As just Mark said, there are over 100 tech companies in Israel addressing small, medium businesses. And if we talked about the pandemic raising the need for technology by small businesses, you can see more and more technology companies addressing this growing demand, de facto creating a new independent tech sector, the SMB tech. These are startups which are just utilizing advanced technology and are able to create an affordable edge to smaller organizations previously considered unprofitable enough to address. There's a funny quote, funny anecdote on Churchill, that during the war, every day he had 10 new ideas. One of them was absolutely brilliant. He just couldn't tell which one. So having an abundance of solutions can have great educational and inspirational value. Yet when actually seeking to implement technology, this could be confusing, even intimidating. Here, myself and the Matchery team in the UK Israel Tech Hub, the British Embassy, can help navigating through the solutions and, depending on specific, can do a focused scouting project to find the most relevant solution for the business. Another integral part of the Matchery program is having dedicated focused events. This can take the form of either training sessions, roundtables, startups, presentations, one-on-one meetings, really any form which can be beneficial to the business. These events cannot be executed by us alone. Here we rely on our partners, large organizations from the business sector or otherwise, which help us reach these businesses. We just said 6 million of them, 6 million small and medium businesses. It's quite a lot of doors to knock on. So if you are such an organization with SMEs as members or clients, we'd love for the opportunity to work together, creating tangible value for your SMB networks. This is not only the right thing to do after this rough year, it's also make real business sense. There's more to it, but as in the Matchery program, we aim at providing real value to businesses. This event is no different. So I'll take this opportunity to wrap up by thanking the Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy Department and the Science and Innovation Network, which are our government collaborators and programs owners. And thanking you, the businesses and partners. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, Otni. Now, for our main panel, Adopt and Adapt, I'm excited to invite our incredibly esteemed group of experts across the UK and Israel, who will share with us today their experience on practical business strategies for SMEs during and beyond COVID. So a warm welcome to Darren Pirie, Enterprise and Engagement at NatWest, Mike Cherry, OBE, National Chairman at the Federation of Small Businesses, Ben Fletcher, Executive Director of Policy and Engagement at Make UK, Ryan Demaray, Managing Director at SAP Concur, and Assaf Kindler, Senior Director of Business Development and Partnerships at Wix. Thank you so much for joining us, and a special thank you and a warm welcome to our moderator of today's discussion, Umerah Akram, co-founder of Elite, a London Stock Exchange initiative focusing on supporting small and medium businesses. Umerah, the virtual floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much. And good morning to everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. I think all our panelists are here. Are we still waiting for Mike? Just checking before I call on him to answer any questions. But really excited to host this, chair this panel this morning, launching the Matchery Programme. I think all our panelists, including myself, we have experience of working with SMEs in a number of different ways. You've heard a little bit about myself, but just by way of introduction, I've been at London Stock Exchange Group for 15 years, always focusing on how we support small businesses and how we actually ease access to capital for them. Over the last few years, I've been involved with Elite in setting it up and growing the business, where we're actually creating a marketplace to help private companies raise private capital. But actually, you know, what we realized as part of that journey is that it's not just about the problems of SMEs, and growing SMEs is not just about that access to capital. It's everything else that comes with that, and the digital and innovation journey that those businesses have are also really, really critical. So we've had a quick introduction of the panelists. Maybe we can just kick off, because we have quite a short time. Maybe, Mike, if we could please kick off with you to just, you know, FSB is representing a significant number of small businesses in the UK, and, you know, at different kind of stages of their growth, from really micro businesses to slightly larger end of the medium-sized businesses. Coming out of 2020 and COVID, what would you say are the three most significant challenges for UK SMEs at the moment?
That's a very, very pertinent question, because there's an ongoing issue, and first and foremost, this resolves around how we've all found it absolutely necessary to get online during the last year of COVID and the crisis. And I think that's one of the problems that we have in the UK. We don't have broadband as the fourth utility. It doesn't reach all places, sometimes even in the city itself, but more especially out in the rural areas. So connectivity would be probably our number one as we come into the recovery period and start to grow the economy. There are too many small businesses that don't have good access to broadband or mobile connectivity across the UK at the moment. So they already have one hand, so to speak, tied behind their backs. Secondly is access to finance. A lot of small businesses have had to take out loans because they've been struggling with COVID. Many small businesses we know have done exceptionally well. They've been able to adapt their businesses. They've been able to change their models. They've been able to divert into producing different goods and services. But far, far too many have not been able to, and they've had to take out loans which are going to hold them back as those loans become repayable. So there's more work to be done there, but access to finance remains still one of the most significant problems in the UK. We don't see equity often as being a route to market, and businesses tend to rely predominantly on the high street banks, which have about 85% of small business lending. So for some time, FSB has been highlighting alternatives, but they're still not a large enough share in the small business marketplace to make the difference that we need as we come through the recovery. And then, of course, lastly, we still need additional support getting through to those businesses that have missed out on any support. And that includes the self-employed who haven't been able to get as much access to the support that employees have had. And I think just at this last stage, when we are looking to come out, thanks to the vaccination programme that the UK has been able to adapt to, that is proving remarkably successful. But businesses are just at the very edge now where they could tip over that edge. We need that extra support tomorrow in the budget that's going to happen here. And we hope that the Chancellor has recognised what we've been calling for to support many of these businesses just over the next few months whilst trading starts to resume. And of course, it won't come back 100% straight away. It will take time. And it will be small businesses that are at the heart of our economic recovery here in the UK. But also about 13% of our members export to Israel. We have about 22% of our members who export across the world. Obviously, the EU has taken quite a large chunk of that, but one of our major markets is the US. So our members, like many small businesses, are innovative and they're looking to grow that export market wherever that may be.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for that, those opening remarks, Mike. Darren, if I could kind of pick up on some of the points that Mike raised as representing NatWest, UK's largest SME bank. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing with your companies, with the wide kind of portfolio that NatWest is supporting?
So, we've been doing a lot of research actually with Mike's team over the last number of weeks to try and look at, with a new or a fresh set of eyes, what are those key challenges, with the impact of COVID, the kind of political arena, and then an outlook. What do we think that the kind of the government lending schemes are going to mean for the market, as we start to progress out of the COVID era. And it's interesting, there's nothing hugely surprising or new within there. When you layer in the context, it becomes a brand new challenge for the UK. One of the big things, Mike touched on the kind of digital transition that we've all been forced into over the last 12 months. And I think that still remains to be a challenge for many businesses in particular sectors across the UK as they try to bring in the infrastructure to deal with new ways of working, new ways of trading, accessing new markets. And I think there's a huge blockage still around digital transition and the ability to increase productivity through that digital transition. Linked to that as well as the capability. So having the right pipeline of capability in the workforce enablement in the UK is a challenge. Outside of the main conurbations in the UK, the big cities, it's very difficult to access the right talent to enable that transition really well and to help the step change in growth that some of the bigger high growth businesses will need to achieve to help the UK get back quicker, right? So I think digital transition remains an issue. One of the other things that I thought was really interesting through the period last year was a significant uplift in appetite from UK business owners to connect with each other. I think it was an effect of the isolation that the pandemic created. But what we've really started to see is extreme connectivity between business owners in a peer-to-peer fashion, so that we can learn and grow together. In sectors, absolutely, but against challenges, whether it's access to finance, as Mike mentioned, or whether it's infrastructure challenges, new markets, whatever those kind of areas of focus that can help propel a business into the next area. It seems to me one of the biggest opportunities for us, actually, rather than a challenge, to try and help further engage communities of like-minded people who can help go together through some of those challenges, learn together and solve problems together. Some of the best examples to bring this to life in a very basic way. As an entrepreneur, you're single-mindedly focused on driving your business, and when you're faced with a challenge, sometimes it's almost impossible to see the light through that challenge. However, when you look at a colleague or a peer's similar challenge, you can solve the problem like that and then take the learnings back into your own business to try and overcome. So I think the peer-to-peer opportunity, and I guess if you were to flip that around and talk about the challenge, it's how do we connect the UK network far better around themes? How do we connect around opportunities? When we can encourage collaboration. So I think those things are absolutely an opportunity. Mike's point on access to finance remains to be one of the biggest challenges. We've been the biggest supporter of the UK government schemes. I think, if I'm honest, I think that the way that the UK finance industry has put itself around the government schemes has almost been a redemption of the industry, compared with a decade ago when there was some bad behaviour. And I think that the trust levels seem to have increased, and I think there's a role now for the banks to play around not just facilitating finance in a traditional sense, to Mike's point around the kind of high street lending, but to look at how do we start to facilitate discussions around alternative finance? What are the solutions that we can bring together ourselves as an organisation that we can perhaps involve senior debt in, but almost work more collaboratively with the alternative finance sectors to try and get more vibrancy and more understanding, to Mike's point, in the customer base around the options available, right? So because access to finance is going to be tough. We have got businesses sitting with debt now that have never had debt before. Yeah, that has a significant impact on mindset. There is going to be an overwhelming. My view and opinion is there's going to be an overwhelming surge of businesses trying to pay down that debt very quickly. That will have an ongoing impact on deposits in the UK. So what does that then mean for the retail banks and their planning and strategies? So I think there's a really interesting dynamic around businesses who have debt, who have never had debt before, and an urgency to get rid of that debt quickly. And then what does that then mean for enabling the business to grow through challenge, right? So there's all sorts of really tricky jigsaw to piece together. But I think some of those things are key for me. And I think that the only way that the UK will handle all of those challenges together is to put the right partnerships around clusters in the UK. You know, it might be the big cities, it might be the universities, it might be, you know, just a bunch of partners coming together really well. But I think that creating an environment of collaboration is our biggest opportunity. Yeah. Overcome those.
And I actually think that collaboration, it's bringing all those different stakeholders together, and I think this is kind of a nice segue to make it what Make is trying to do. And you know, I'll pass the kind of mic to you, Ben. But really, you know, it's about bringing large and small businesses together for collaboration, bringing in the universities for the R&D, and then how you know, business can actually help commercialize some of the ideas. With kind of Ben as a kind of representative of the manufacturing sector, tell us a little bit about what are some of the challenges that you're seeing from you know, SMEs in the sector, and also looking ahead at the net zero agenda. You know, what do you see are some of the challenges for some of our traditional manufacturing businesses?
Thank you, and many thanks for the invitation. Delighted to be able to participate today. I mean, firstly, just to say that I really agree and endorse everything that Mike and Darren have just said. I mean, I could just finish there, but that's probably not really why you invited me today. So I think building on that, there are really important things to understand about British manufacturing and its resilience and its strength. I mean, what is often forgotten, because people think Britain's manufacturing industry had its heyday 100 years ago or 50 years ago, is that we are a very, very significant manufacturing nation, a growing manufacturing nation. We're one of the top 10 manufacturers in the world, and manufacturing in the UK economy is about 12% at core, about 17% if you add in the supporting capabilities, which means it's bigger than financial services, it's bigger than construction. So it's a very, very big element of what we do, but its breadth is enormous. And at one end, you've got people making nuclear submarines and fast jets, and at the other end, you've got people making craft beer and artisan bread rolls in their garage. And that is an incredibly wide group of organisations to represent. It's also important to understand that in terms of kind of talking about them in generalities, because you have an enormous mix of pressures on such a diverse industry. But what I would say coming out of COVID is that the industry, and particularly the small businesses, and Mike's done a superb job of representing them, that resilience, that ability to adapt wherever possible. Some haven't been able to, but many have, and many have come out of this with new product lines, new approaches, and so on, which I think will stand the industry in very good stead. But I do think that there is still a huge amount to wrestle with. Firstly, about half of all of our exports from manufacturing historically have gone to the EU. And although that's not going to come to an end, it's going to be appreciably harder to do that. I think the other issue is that there's going to be a significant and ongoing collapse of demand in parts of the sector, which will take a while to recover, and business confidence as a result is quite low. If you work in the aviation sector, and many businesses of all sizes are part of the aviation supply chain in the UK, it's one of the very biggest parts of the sector. We're not flying at the moment. People aren't ordering new planes. People aren't ordering service parts to keep existing planes in the air. And there will be a time lag because of quarantine and vaccinations and so on before that industry rebuilds. The automotive sector, producing cars, producing commercial vehicles, there's also a very low level of demand, not quite as low as in aviation, but companies aren't renewing their fleets. Other than building small vehicles to deliver lots and lots of small deliveries for Amazon and the supermarkets, the commercial sector has got very, very low order books. And again, it will take a while before the recovery starts to stimulate that. So you've got some real challenges around demand. I think the other big thing just to talk about, and we may come onto it as well in later questions, is skills. What Britain has lacked for a long time are technical skills. We've got fantastic universities producing really high quality, highly qualified people on a range of areas that are relevant to manufacturing, including tech. But we haven't had for a long time a strong sector producing people at the technical skilled level, people who will service new robots, people who will program new 3D printers and deliver additive manufacturing. And I think there is a real issue there about our relationship with Israel and how we can build the skills base, because for the last 20 years, we filled that gap by using labour from the EU, And again, as with trade, that source of labour is going to be much harder to access in the future. And how do we skill the economy? How do we build collaboration and partnerships? I think that's absolutely key. And I think finally, if we think about tech and the move into tech, Mike very eloquently set out some of the challenges around broadband capacity in the UK. It's not anywhere near where it should be. That has an enormous kind of debilitating factor on encouraging people to invest. And I think there's also something very critical about once you overcome that hurdle, there is a nervousness about, particularly for SMEs, it's quite easy to sell this into big multinational firms with big glass-walled factories, and they get it and they will be able to adapt. But for some of those reasons that link into skills and not having the skill base in your company, it's actually quite a daunting challenge. And there are nervousnesses about cyber, about losing your IP. There's nervousnesses about how you get the best value from it. And where Britain has lacked for a long time in the global challenges is not our capabilities, it's not our production, it's our productivity. And I think if we want to bridge that gap, we need a really good relationship on skills. We need to overcome those nervousnesses, and we need to have better solutions in things like cyber to give people the confidence to invest in technology. So I think talking to our members in a very wide range of issues, that's how I would distill them down into a set of priorities at the moment.
Yeah, no, great, thank you for that. So what we've heard so far is really key challenges around access to finance, definitely, access to markets, access to the right kind of skills, and then making sure we have the technology in place. And that's technology from an infrastructure perspective, but also really how we're upskilling our employees and our people to adopt technology and go digital, etc. And we've seen some of that in COVID, but we need to make sure that can continue for the much longer term. So if I can kind of move on from those points, over to you, Ryan, on you SAP working with a huge number of SMEs as your customers. How are you helping your SME customer base? Yeah,
well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here representing large technology companies that are specifically focused on helping SMBs. So where we focus our solution, so SAP Concur is a piece of technology that helps companies primarily manage their spend, right? So we help the finance department's account payable department to manage three core functions: corporate travel, which, as we've heard talked about, has been almost at a standstill, but managing expense claims and also paying their vendor invoices. So that's the core of what our technology does. But where we focus our efforts with helping companies solve problems today is really around cash flow management. We've heard the talk about, the increasing debt load and how that's going to be something new for businesses as they recover. We've heard talk about remote working as well and adoption of technology to get there. And that has really been an area that we've seen customers have an increased demand for solutions which are consumption-based, which means our pricing model is you only pay for what you use at the moment, which is really important as businesses are recovering, to have a model in place that allows them to approach the technology, start with where they need it, and then grow their relationship over time. But managing that cash flow is really for us about helping them gain the visibility into where the spend is leaving their organizations. What categories are they strategic? Are they the long tail of a disparate group of vendors? Could they bring them together and consolidate that down and have more strategic relationships? It's about controlling the spend before it happens to help prioritize where that money is going within their organizations. Is it towards growth initiatives? Is it about managing the growth opportunities and ensuring that you have the money in place to get there? So the primary focus for us is managing that cash flow and how it's leaving the organization. The digital transformation part is, of course, core to what we do. As a cloud-based solution, we offer tools that allow companies to work from wherever through their mobile applications or through their desktops. So as Mike and Brian or Ben had talked about, the access to broadband is something that is continues to be an opportunity for improvement, but that is our solution is dependent upon that. But that digital technology allows organizations to safely work from home, right? So on the idea of processing vendor invoices, most of the infrastructure was still sent into the office on the high street or into someone's individual place of business, and our technology allowed them to manage those pieces remotely. So those are the key areas in which we've been focusing on helping people. And the last thing I will say is around that connectivity. You know, we do have a large set of customers that we work with, and we found that they do want to continue to come together to have conversations with each other around how they're using our technology to help them meet their business needs. And so we have taken that opportunity as a vendor to find new ways to connect those customers, create safe spaces for them to come together, talk about their core business problems that they're solving, and just get out of the way, right? We really just want to be a platform for them to connect and talk about the value that we can help them with.
Yeah, great, thank you. Darren, if I could pick on you as well. So NatWest, obviously a number of different ways you're supporting your customers at the moment, not just in terms of providing them the access to the actual money, but in helping manage their finances, manage their cash flows, etc. What are some of the things that you're doing and looking at technology specifically as to how it can better support your customer base as well? And if I can also ask you to touch on the work that your accelerator is also doing and what the objectives are there, the SMEs that you're working with through the accelerator.
Yeah, thanks. So I think there's two ways in which we're kind of tackling that at the moment. One is to think about how do we create better digital banking solutions, whether that's payments through our new till payment services, whether it's enhanced digital lending and onboarding, whether that's really smart cash flow management tools like through our free agent solution, and trying to enhance our digital adoption of those services as a core banking offering to support the finance side of things for small business. On the other side, we're looking at, okay, what are the things that we can put around the banking as an added value that can help overcome challenges, whether that's really smart thought leadership and content to help re-educate customers and business owners on some of the key challenges as they are either changing the way they approach doing business or they're pivoting the business to go in a completely different direction. We want to be there to support the education around that stuff. I touched on it earlier as well, and the connectivity piece is really important. We're trying to create communities across the UK, bring people together with a kind of common purpose or certainly a common mindset to try and grow business. And our accelerator program is a really good example of where we've done that. I might add that the genesis of our accelerator program was born in Tel Aviv. I came over to the city a number of years ago to just be part of or to see action, entrepreneurship in action around the startup scene, and I took back lots of learnings from Tel Aviv to help build our proposition, our accelerator program. And essentially, it's about creating hubs. But that point I made earlier about clusters of people, collaborators, stakeholders, all with a common interest. We opened 12 hub locations with about 100 businesses in each of those to help move them through the growth cycle, and focused on some of those things around access to finance, well trailed today, access to new markets and how we can help make that happen through supply chain, access to talent, so how do we stimulate great conversations around expertise. Leadership is probably primary in our focus within that, and then the infrastructure stuff that we've talked about. And we've set our proposition up under those pillars, whether it's, as I've mentioned, communities, whether it's partnerships, whether it's thought leadership. And then the other bit that we've tried to do is create a really intensive coaching program to help entrepreneurial leaders. And this is my point back to leadership. Help people find clarity in direction and really make those decisions more quickly than they ordinarily would have done if they'd been isolated on their own. So we've tried to create a smart digital banking solution. I think probably the most exciting part of that is our payments opportunity with Till. Everything is going digital around payment transition, and we're using a really smart data machine behind that to be really intuitive to our customers' needs and to create communities around that. And then separately, this added value stuff that we're doing on all of those themes that I talked about is really important. We're going to enhance that more significantly through some work we're doing with Mike's team and other partners around just that piece of work that I mentioned at the start around how do we really understand the challenges, and then through those pillars that I talk about, enhance the teams. So how do we really support our customers to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, great. So Assaf, I'm conscious we haven't spoken to you. Maybe we can bring you in now. Tell us a little bit about how Wix is supporting SMEs through adopting technology, and what is some of the work you have done in the UK with UK SMEs.
Sure. Before I start talking about Wix, I just want to thank Inon and all the partners coming together for this panel, and really to echo what you were saying during the panelists were saying. It's about coming together and trying to help SMBs. And this is something that Wix is really about. What we try to do is to provide SMBs all the tools that they need to come online, grow, and manage their business. From providing a set of tools of website building tools, Wix ADI, which is the simplest one. We ask you a few simple questions, and within a few minutes, you have a 90% ready website to go, to robust e-commerce solutions. Today, we have more than 200 million users worldwide. Main markets are English-speaking markets, obviously US and the UK. And what is really interesting about Wix and small businesses is that we really see them. We see it in the numbers. We see the verticals that are growing because of the pandemic. We see a large growth in new stores. More than 500% of e-commerce actually opened their first store right when the lockdown started. We see that a lot of them were ready to sell store, meaning they were already existing and selling. A large increase in the food and beverage, and a large increase in actually, Mike, I believe you talked about it before, also in artisans and starting new craft.
Sorry, if I can ask everyone else to go on mute, please.
Thank you.
Carry on.
So just to summarize, with Wix, what we do is we provide a small business with a set of tools to first come online, then to manage their sales or manage their bookings, manage their payroll, and even more than 50 tools to manage their marketing efforts and growth. We have
how do people find you? How have you grown your business, and how do you approach the SMEs?
That's a very good question. Basically, we have an amazing marketing team here at Wix, and we target small businesses. They come online, they build a website. They can build a website for free, but in case they want to connect their own domain, accept payments or bookings, they can upgrade to a premium plan. In the past few years, we started to work also with bigger partners and institutions, partners like telecoms and banks all over the world, to offer services together for small businesses. And we also see that, also echoing something that all the panelists say, that a lot of businesses now need the help of coming online. They need the help of becoming digital. They need someone to grab them by the hand, walk them past the street, help them build a website, help them connect to the right digital software, and really start working. They've been a restaurant, they know how to cook, they know how to write a menu, but they don't know how to connect to a digital payment. They don't know how to do online ordering. And this is something that Wix is really about. And with our partners, telco or bank, or even Chamber of Commerce, we help provide build it for me services. People that usually are could be the partner's employees, could be a third-party services, it could be local freelancers or designer agencies. We partner with them to bring these businesses online. We help these partners with training and education. So in a sense, when we grow in a market and when we bring tens of thousands of SMBs online, keep in mind, in the UK, we already have tens of millions of registered businesses. We also see the increase of the whole network. We see job creation, not just for the small businesses. We see new jobs for web designers, new jobs for freelancer, even students that are trained on Wix on how to build websites. So it's really about...
Sorry to interrupt. Can I ask, like, are you then helping the businesses understand what, I guess, the impact of their digitization has been? And linked to that also, are you also seeing an increase of more B2B rather than just the B2C businesses go more digital as well?
So it's a very interesting question. We see an increase in all sides. Mm-hmm. We see an increase in all sides, and what we're trying to do at Wix, and what I believe also was very it was very evident that prior to the lockdown, if you would ask a business, do you need to go online? He would say, yeah, having a site is nice, but it's not a must-have. And today, having a website is a must-have, and we see it across all verticals. We see it from people selling product-based businesses like e-commerce, and we also see it in service-based businesses, from doctor clinics and lawyers and psychologists and even fitness. We see a huge growth in fitness, and these small businesses are actually the core of the economy. They're the one that is driving the most growth, and usually the ones that have gotten hidden the most. And what we try to do at Wix, together with our partners, is from providing the Build It For Me service, but also providing a lot of training and also providing a lot of video material from the Wix Academy to our robust online YouTube training, where people can come online really from their smartphone, connect to a payment gateway, and continue. And we work with our partners also to provide, a complete offer, banking services plus a premium Wix website, hand-in-hand training together with funding. And I also believe that in this panel, after this panel, in the spirit of all the partners coming together, I believe that a great solution can be provided to the small businesses.
Yeah, great, thank you. Mike, if I could come back to you, there are a lot of emerging technologies, and we see large corporations adopt different types of technologies. We've seen 2020, everybody adopting technology in whatever small or big way. How would you say, the UK SME population should think about its tech challenges, and what could be done to help them think about that collaboration and seeking out some of those emerging technologies?
I think everyone should absolutely embrace new digital technologies. The problem, as Assaf has alluded to, is, of course, you often don't know how to, you don't have the skills in-house, which Ben has referred to, and this is a major, major problem here in the UK. You have business people who know a lot about their particular business, whether that be in goods or services. 2/3 of our members trade in goods on export markets, and a third in services. So both are very important. But trying to learn those skills is something that we're all going to have to address. And with YouTube, with podcasts, with online training bits, if you like, that is going to be one of the major ways to deliver on that. But management and leadership skills have been shown to be one of the core areas that small businesses lack. And so, again, we are hopeful that there will be some additional support coming through as we come out of the recovery. And one of the problems alongside of that, of course, is not just updating your own knowledge and your own skill base on what digital actually means, but it's also on who do you trust to go to. And I think trust comes into this. Where do you go? And of course, whether it be Make UK, whether it be FSB, our members, we would certainly hope, recognise us as a trusted brand. And therefore, the more we can do, either directly or with partners, that will facilitate some of this, but also government has a role to play in helping tax reliefs, perhaps, in other areas. But for too long, just to come back on Ben's point, skills remains in the UK the elephant in the room. We have not had consistency in vocational training for the last 30 or 40 years. And I would hope that as we go forward out of this crisis, that whatever comes in place for T-level skills, whatever comes in place for apprenticeships, that is there for the long term. We fall way behind places in other countries like Germany, where they've had consistency of offer. And that consistency of offer needs everybody to be engaged. It needs the businesses to be engaged. It needs the providers to be engaged. It needs society to be engaged, so you have an understanding of what that offer is. And I think that is going to be absolutely fundamental as we've gone through leaving the EU and making sure that our own people are properly upskilled, and particularly coming out of this crisis now, that they can be upskilled at any time, not just when they're leaving school and taking a vocational route, which can be absolutely equal to academia, for those who are much better adapted to doing it that way. And of course, we have a massive skills gap, as Ben has alluded to, whether that be in manufacturing, whether it be in new technologies, whether it be in basic construction and other trade skills that we need. So I think there's a lot that has to be done. There's a lot that can be embraced. And of course, for small businesses, it's that how-to element, knowing how to do it, how it will benefit your business is a key element, because if you can understand how it will benefit you, you're much, much more likely to go and say, I want to share of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know for our kind of, we're working with a specific cluster of growing SMEs, but, you know, we talk about the different pillars of growth, and digitalization is one of them. And, you know, companies are at different journeys, but I almost see that a route to digitalization being part of every company's kind of strategic objectives, being part of their risk register, and that, you know, that the board and the management teams are actually held accountable against that as well. Ben, I don't know if you have anything further to add on that, because, you know, Matt, you're representing a kind of huge and wide-ranging sector. Some of the traditional manufacturers are perhaps less digital in a way, which is, you know, which is not something we necessarily expect.
I think there's a very, very interesting picture across the sector. And I think, like all sectors, the last year or so has been catalytic, I think, to a lot of firms in terms of the approach that they've taken and the pace that they've moved at. I think there's an interesting element for medium and smaller businesses in manufacturing, particularly, because they don't tend to be B2C businesses, they tend to be B2B businesses. So the way in which they engage, the way in which they take their services to market and so on is very, very different. But I think the sort of customer demand, which Assaf talked about, which has driven so much digitization, still has had a resonance over the last few months, because you know, there has had to be a different way of doing business. There's had to be a different way of engaging. So although the dynamic is not as powerful in B2B as it is in B2C, it's still very much there. I think the other thing which you mentioned earlier on, which I think is a very important framing for the digitization agenda in the UK over the next few years, is net zero. And I think that what people are really rapidly at the start of this year beginning to get their understanding around, and you talked about corporate targets and creating a corporate culture and every business having a pathway to that. In the UK, I think the government takes the hosting of COP26 in Glasgow at the end of the year incredibly seriously. I think over the duration of the year, it will have an enormous bearing on the way in which government sets out its expectations of business, and we'll probably see some of that in the UK government's budget, which the Chancellor will deliver tomorrow. And I think the pace of change to achieve the targets that the British government have now set out in law of reducing emissions by 2050, we need to have actually cut greenhouse gas emissions by 50% within 9 years. Now, that is an incredibly challenging objective for any economy, not least one the size of the UK's with the multifaceted nature. And I think digitisation, the take-up of artificial intelligence, a number of other big step changes will, for many businesses, be looked at in the context of how can we achieve those targets in those very difficult and challenging timetables. And the only way we'll do so is if we embrace radical change. As Mike and I and a number of panelists have said, that the challenge really is how do you give people the confidence and the knowledge and the skills to do that. But I think that net zero challenge is going to be critical to that. The other dimension isn't just how do you change your business to make it more efficient and more sustainable and in a position to hit those targets, it's how can you redefine your business? Because actually in the UK, and there'll be huge opportunities for companies on the call to partner with British firms, how do you actually move from being someone who provides a turbine that powers a gas facility or an oil facility into providing a turbine that's part of an offshore wind farm? How does the components that you produce that currently go into a car engine, how does that go into battery storage? And how do you change your business? And I think those kind of things will lead to an uptake of skills, an uptake of dynamism, will help us achieve net zero, will make British business part of the solution rather than part of the problem. And I think that framing over the next 10 years is going to be critical. But as I think we've all said, doing that when you're already debt laden is going to be difficult. Doing that when you haven't got access to skills is going to be difficult. And I think British business will be reaching out both to find new export markets, but also new sources of collaboration around the world. I'm sure Israel will be in a very, very strong position to work closely with British business on some of those shared objectives.
Great, thank you. I want to kind of draw out a specific example. Ryan, you know, I know SAP have collaborated with an Israeli SME, emerging tech Vatbox, if I'm not mistaken. Could you tell us a little bit about that, given the audience, and we're talking about, you know, calling on UK SMEs to tap into the Israeli emerging technologies?
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity to answer this. So the technology itself is really interesting, and I want to kind of tie a string to something we talked about earlier, which was building skills and the appropriate level of skills. And I think the role that technology and firms like Concur have with these new offerings is taking the burdens, the large burdens, because a lot of times what we see firms lack the change is because they're still so tied up in doing things the old way. Right? They're tied into manually keying things in and just needing to get a piece through the system in order to get to a place, and that is where the focus gets. And what Concur is able to do with solutions like Vatboxes and others is to digitize and automate a lot of the manual parts of the process that technology fits really well with, like OCR is an example, right? Digitizing the input of documents so that people's time can be spent doing the analysis and the big critical thinking that allow them to up-level their skills. And so the Vatbox solution and what it does and how it helps is, yes, once your vendor invoices or expense claims have been fully digitally uploaded into the cloud, this solution goes through and starts to evaluate where you have risk. Where is the VAT being calculated incorrectly? Where can you reclaim? And what is your opportunity to go out and retrieve some financial incentives back for your organization to actually put some money back into your coffers and have some impact? And so I think when we look at that in the context of how we help small and medium enterprises have an impact, one, it's the partnership, right? Vatbox is not a massive organization, and how do we take their really meaningful technology and pair it with something like SAP Concurs that has a larger reach and bring that to market more quickly. But also, I would be remiss not to say that is where we find a great deal of value in helping our customers, moving away from the manual tasks and helping them focus their time on building skills, analytics, and making meaningful change in their business and up-leveling their skills. Hopefully that gives you the answer you're looking for.
Yeah, no, great, thank you. I think we're coming up to our time. So I'd just like to, given we've got in the audience UK SMEs and we've got Israeli tech businesses, I'd just like to invite all the panelists to just kind of maybe share one thing that they would urge UK SMEs to think about.
I've got to start in a second, Kate. So.
If everyone can go on mute, please. So if I could just invite each of the panelists to just say one thing that, you know, a UK SME can think about in adopting, in going digital or completing their digital journey or evolving their digital journey or looking at emerging technologies. So maybe Darren, if I could start with you.
I guess the thing that we look for when we're inviting people onto our accelerator, aside from the economic impact data that you'd expect an accelerator program to look for in a business, is mindset, right? It's to think about, does this entrepreneur have the ambition, the drive, the focus to be able to take a business through that growth curve? So I think I would encourage all, you know, UK business owners to think about, you know, focusing on a plan, focusing on, you know, that opportunity to grow and take the step.
Great. Mike?
If you haven't already embraced digital, then certainly take a step back from your business, have a look at where it could benefit you, and if needs be, seek help to be able to do that. And of course, FSB are there, Make UK are there, other business organisations and other partners are around. And certainly for those on this call, look at where you may be able to get some help from those other businesses that are here, whether it be Assaf or others on the programme. So thank you for the invite, and I hope everyone's found that of some use.
Assaf, over to you.
Really, thank you, Mike. You actually, you know, said everything I wanted to say. But, you know, maybe I can just comment on a chat that I got during the talk. Actually, one of the participants sent a clothing store that a couple of their students closed and selling clothes in retail. And I would say my advice is following what Mike said, is really learn and adapt and evolve. Like, learn what partners and solutions you can have, see where you can find most of them together in one place to reduce the choice that you have, and really go step by step. There's a lot of organizations that are ready to help you cross the road, and it's just a matter of finding them.
Ryan?
Yeah, for me, if I were to challenge them to think about one thing, it's about finding manual tasks which can automate. I think that that's an opportunity for us to, as vendors, focus in not just on the automation. So when you go to your vendors and you speak to them, think about a manual task that you have automation, but in that process, talk to them about your business and where you're trying to take your business and your big objectives. Because I promise you, vendors like SAP Concur, Assaf and Wix and all the others here, those vendors have information to share with you about how to make your business go forward beyond the automation. So I challenge you, get rid of all the manual tasks that you can, have honest conversations about your business desires, and I'm willing to bet you'll find some good options there.
Great. And lastly, Ben?
Thank you. I mean, huge amount of great stuff already said. So rather than just repeating that, two things. British manufacturers, there is a fantastic program. It started as a pilot in the Northwest called Made Smarter. It's now being rolled out across the country. It's a big amount of government money that's about equipping SMEs to understand and embrace and adopt technical and digital improvements in a safe and trusted way. And ourselves, Mike at FSB, the other big trade associations, we're all involved in these kind of schemes. And I think if you're nervous about taking that first step, then find the trusted partner, whether it's your bank, whether it's your existing supplier, or whether it's something like the programs around Made Smarter, because they are the things that are designed to give you the confidence to take that first step. As I think everyone else has said, this is not something to put off. This is a challenge which is rushing very, very fast towards us. And I think it's really key that people are confident enough to realise that this is a decision that will need to be made in the next 12 to 18 months, not something to put off for another 5 years. And if I had kind of one sort of really important closing point, it is about your networks. So if you're in a supply chain, really important to talk up and down that supply chain and see what other people are doing in that supply chain, because if you go off and embrace something very left field, but actually your business model is designed very powerfully within that supply chain, really important that you're having those conversations both up and down that supply chain to understand the direction of travel so that you continue to be relevant to it. And one of the things we hear a lot is where people have taken bad advice, gone down one particular road, and that means that their biggest customer finds it much, much harder to do business with them. So I think understand where you are as a business. You may want to change your business model, and that's fine, and digitization can be that way of taking that step forward. But if you're very established, understand where you exist in that ecosystem and modernize to continue to be part of it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would just kind of reiterate what I said earlier. If you're the leader of a founder or CEO of a growing SME, think about how technology could help you create a roadmap and hold yourself accountable against that. How technology could help you manage your finances, how you could help you gain access to finance, how actually it could help you upskill your people as well. So EdTech is obviously a growing sector and is making different types of knowledge and skills more and more accessible. So that's kind of my experience of working with SMEs that I just wanted to share as well. Well, I think we're out of time, so I would just like to thank the Tech Hub for inviting me, inviting us, and really thank you to the panelists for all your contribution and thoughts. Thank you very much, Umerah, and the speakers for this really insightful discussion and overview of the gaps and the challenges, but also of the opportunities and strategies for UK SMEs, which is a really good segue to our next part of the event. So we will now be allocated to our dedicated breakout rooms on cyber, customer engagement, and Industry 4.0. where you will get to meet industry experts across both countries and also relevant Israeli tech solutions. So just to say, if you happen to be placed in a different room to the one that you wanted, please go back to the main room and we will then transfer you. So enjoy everyone, and thank you very much.